Welcome, everyone. I'm thrilled that you're here with us today. My name is Sheila Gold. I'm the Executive Director of Admission for Tulane School of Professional Advancement, and I have some of my colleagues with me today, as well as some incredible panelists who I'm going to introduce to you in just a minute. Just a reminder that this session is titled My Personal Journey to Pay for College. As the Director of Admission, I can tell you that one of the questions that we get a lot as students are applying to school is going back to school worth the investment? We certainly respect the fact that paying for a degree is an investment, not only of money, but of time. And that is the reason that we're going to share the information with you that we have prepared today. We want you to know that we are here to answer any of the questions that you may have, if not during the webinar, certainly afterwards. And we certainly hope that we can provide some valuable information to you today, as well as you apply to return to school. We respect that students certainly are savvy consumers and that you want to get your questions answered, and that you certainly want your investment of time, money, time away from your family and from work to pay off. So that's our intended goal today. We're going to discuss the real costs and benefits to returning to school, and then also discuss a little bit about balancing work and life while studying and working towards your career goals. So I have two colleagues with me today, Madison Duncan and Ann Conlon, who are behind the scenes making the magic work today, and then two incredible panelists who are SoPA representatives, and they're going to tell you a lot about their journey and why working towards a degree has paid off for them. Our first panelist is Derrick Houston. Derrick is a New Orleans native. He enjoys travel, fine art, and spending time with his family and friends. Derrick will share a little bit with you about the fact that he comes from humble beginnings and grew up with a curiosity about wealth, how to create wealth, and how to sustain wealth. This curiosity led him to work for one of the strongest investment firms in the world, where he currently holds the title of Vice President of Investments and of Private Client Advisor. Just a little bit of a PSA. Derrick is here representing himself. He is not here representing in a professional capacity. His story is his story and lessons that he's learned. So he's not necessarily giving professional advice, but he certainly feels like his time working towards his degree has helped him professionally, and that he will comment on. Our other panelist is Kenley Feit. Kenley holds a BA in Public Relations and Health and Wellness with a minor in Marketing. She's currently pursuing her master's in Public Health at Tulane School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. She also works at SoPA, helping us as an admissions representative, and she loves working with students and helping them decide whether or not going back to school is the right step for them. I know that you will feel their passion, both of their passion for going back to school and for the School of Professional Advancement. So I couldn't be more excited to talk to them today, because these are two of my favorite people who are SoPA representatives to talk to. So we're going to kind of launch into our questions. I'm just the hostess today for this panel, and if we have enough time, we'll take a few questions. If we don't, we will follow up with you. My suggestion is that at the bottom of your screen, you will see the chat function. Enter a question into the chat function. If we have time to follow up during this 30 minutes, it goes very quickly, we will. If not, we will be capturing that information and we can reach out to you individually through an email. So I don't want to chew up any more time. Let's get started. My first question to our panelists are, I'd like you to share your story about why you chose to go back to school. So I'm gonna first ask Derrick, and then have Kenley ask the same question.
Sure, thank you for having me. The reason why I chose to return to higher education is because I experienced a part in my career where I actually plateaued. And in order for me to further my career path, a degree was required. And 15 years ago, when I initially started my time at university, I lacked the maturity that was required to actually recognize the opportunity that was before me. So as a late bloomer, I really was excited at the opportunity to further my education, and Tulane was the best place for me to actually embark on that mission.
Great. Thank you, Derrick. Kenley?
Hi everyone. I'm happy to be here as well today. So I was in early 2012 living in New York City and really just not liking the career that I was working in, like in that field, and I really wanted to do something new. And Tulane has such a reputation, just such a highly regarded reputation. So when I learned about what is now the School of Professional Advancement, I came in and I really was just seeking direction, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next because I didn't like what I was doing and I knew I needed a change. So for me, the School of Professional Advancement really shifted and it shifted my trajectory in life. And I realized that there were a lot of options so I love public relations and health and wellness. And at SoPA, I was able to study both. So I just really wanted to do something new, and SoPA gave me that opportunity.
That's great. Thanks, Kenley. And we're going to touch on this in a minute or two, but answer me. I think I'm correct that both of you worked while you went to school, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right, thanks. And I'm going to throw it back to Derrick. Can you tell me a little bit and share with those of us who are joining us today a little bit about how you financed your education and why you chose to approach financing your education the way that you did?
Sure, sure. So, as an investment advisor, I'm trained to scrutinize actually investments as a whole to make sure that the benefit is there. And when I was looking at different universities, I also looked at the network that was available in addition to the university, but also the resources. And I can tell you that the resources at Tulane actually gave me the confidence to step back into the higher education arena because I had over a 10-year hiatus, whereas I wasn't in school. And just thinking about how am I going to be able, what is my writing going to look like? Or how am I going to be able to express these critical thinking skills that are required to get a degree? And when I was contemplating those things, Tulane actually provided all of the support that's needed for a student that's re-entering into the higher education arena. So when it came to financing it, I knew that in order for me to further my career path, that I had to make an investment. So I work for a Fortune 500 company, and a lot of Fortune 500 companies and other companies offer benefits within their package to their employees, whereas they may have an education reimbursement program or prepayment program, and not only will your company invest in helping you to sharpen your skill set, but also personal, if it doesn't cover the full cost, then you have to understand that personally there's a lot of options to you as well. At Tulane, the financial aid office, they're very available and willing to help you explore different avenues for financing, and that was one avenue that I definitely took advantage of. So in a combination between my employer sponsoring a part of my education, I did seek financial aid through other means, and I came out of pocket at sometimes because, of course, sometimes it didn't cover the entire tuition. But is it worth it? It for me, it has paid off in dividends, and I'll be able to explain that a little bit more during this interview.
That's great. Thanks. And I really appreciate, Derrick, that you took a moment to point out some of the things that you considered of value towards the investment, such as support for students to keep you successful as you're working towards your degree, also the value of the alumni network, the value of a Tulane degree. So those were some of the things that you factored into the fact that this was an investment. So I appreciate you saying that. So Kenley, share with us a little bit about why you decided that going back to school was a good investment and how you chose to work towards that.
Sure. So for me, leaving the lifestyle that the path that I was on meant a complete shift. So I mean, I moved across the country to New Orleans, and with that came a lot of other changes. And so in my life, going to school, and which is something I always wanted to do, and it always just kind of, if I'm being really transparent, it felt really daunting and really tough to go back to school at my age, because I felt like, you know what, I'm not 20, I'm not 18. I was significantly older than that at the time. And so it felt really daunting. So for me, it really meant, if I wanted to do it, I was going to have to really take advantage of financial aid, and I was going to work through that process, which I love working through now, but at the time, I found it incredibly daunting as well. And so I really put off going back for a long time because I was so uncertain, until I got to SoPA. And then I began walking through those processes. And I knew almost immediately upon walking in that it would be worth my investment, because I wanted an education. And I didn't just have the cash to pay for it right then. But I paid for it at times when I did have extra money. I didn't use loans at that time. I was able to pay for some semesters out of pocket. But mostly I took loans. There were years that I was eligible for Pell Grants as well, which don't have to be paid back at any point. When you've completed a semester, you've used Pell Grants. So learning about that made what had felt impossible for so long for me feel possible. And I did it. And it was definitely worth it. I think one of the biggest payoffs that I've seen already is that now I'm continuing to further my education. And not only did I get a degree, but I learned what I like and what I'm really good at. And I can't put a price tag on that. It's been phenomenal.
Thanks, Kenley. So both of you, and I'm going to kick it back to Derrick for a second, both alluded to the fact that you feel like your investment in your education has paid off. Can you share just one or two reasons about what that looks like and how you know that it's paid off, and what advice you would share to prospective students about ways that you feel like they might feel like it will pay off?
Sure. I would say that with an education, there comes a certain level of confidence. When you're able to articulate and express ideas in a certain way, it's really reassuring knowing that you have a solid background in whatever subject matter it is. And at Tulane, there's so many different areas of study that it allows you to sharpen your skill set on so many different levels. And while you're mastering those skills, you are also able to acquire new skills. And that by itself it outweighs itself in gold. But for me, in being in a business profession, communication is huge. And just after just a short time at SoPA, my writing skills, my communication skills, my ability to be able to express messages and convey things to my team in a clear and concise manner. Those things, those tools I didn't possess prior to entering higher education. So just that ability alone has opened so many doors for me, because I have, since my time at SoPA, I have acquired promotions, and I have built a strong network of professionals and students and peers that actually have helped me to broaden my horizons. So when I think about the investment, I would just say that it pays dividends, and it's definitely worth any cost associated with acquiring a higher education degree.
Thanks, Derrick. I appreciate you sharing that. I know that you've shared with me before that one of the things that you found immediately most valuable is that you could communicate in the business world in a clear and concise way, and that those were skills that you didn't have before. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Kenley, what are some ways that you've been able to measure the return and investment of your time and you know the loans that possibly you took out?
I love this question because for me, what I wanted when when going to college was going back to school as an adult learner, when that was just sort of a wish for me, what I wanted was to get an education that would allow me to create connections. I always kind of had this dream in the back of my mind that I would make friends in college that I'd have for life, and I did that. I wanted to have a job that I really enjoyed doing, at least most days. You know, I don't think any position is perfect, but I wanted to have a career that didn't cause dread. And I got that. And I mean, my goodness, to think now that SoPA prepared me, like less than a year from now, I'll have a master's degree. And I was telling my boss the other day that I think I'm going to pursue the PhD. And she said, of course you are, you know, so it has opened so many doors that were always dreams of mine. I always knew education was important. And for a long time, it felt like it belonged to someone else. But I got that confidence as well that Derrick was talking about, that you know, a lot of us in my position, in Derrick's position, we had a lot of practical experience, and now we have education that backs up that experience, and it's the whole package. So it paid off really quickly for me in terms of going, you know, finding that job that I can be Kenley in my position at SoPA, and I really think it's just going to continue building from there. And so it's very easy to say from a personal standpoint that it's absolutely worth it. And I've really, at SoPA, come to find the things that I'm good at and really been able to hone those skills. So not only was it immediate in its payoff in terms of giving me something that I like now, it's given me the option to just build on that throughout my lifetime.
That's great. Thank you. So I'm going to throw you all a question that you may have to think about on the spot, but you both talked about sort of relationships and, you know, the network. Can you each sort of kind of quickly identify a moment that you've had or a relationship with a faculty member or maybe another student that has really helped you grow and that you find invaluable while you've been at SoPA? So I'm going to throw it back to Derrick.
Wow. There's so many countless moments that I can think about. To kind of hone in on one specific one, it's kind of difficult, but the there's so many people that I've met, Sheila, over the past 4 years that I've been at SoPA. And one person that sticks out in particular is a professor of mine called George Lutt. His name is George Lutz, and he teaches real estate and small business development writing. And it was through conversations with him that I actually was able to begin an interest in real estate and in investments. To have real estate in your portfolio is not out of the normal, but whenever you're able to talk about specifics with the client or details or with the prospect about an area such as real estate, and really talk about things that that the average person wouldn't know about. That's one great attribute that he actually gave me. Was he gave me some vocabulary that I didn't have before, and different logic points of logic towards thinking about these types of investments. So that comes to mind. Like I said, it's a very difficult question and on the spot because there's so many people that I've met that have helped me in such a beneficial way.
That's great. Thanks, Derrick. Kenley?
Well, yeah, I'm with Derrick on that in terms of just where do you even begin? But I think I'll go back to the first one. One of our professors, Tamar Gregorian, she taught introduction to PR and public relations campaigns, various classes related to public relations. And she's a dear friend now, but she was my professor first. She's mentored me in areas, really helped me learn a lot about relationship building and communicating and asking for what you want in your position, asking for what you want just in life. And so I've done a lot of work with her and with her husband that is now in my resume, that the opportunity came about because she saw my work, she saw my communication style, and it fit really well with opportunities that they had lined up. So, and that's happened a number of times, but I think just watching her get her PhD, and she's still teaching at SoPA. It's really phenomenal to say, wow, I mean, I've gained so much more than just an education.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I threw that in a little bit on the spot because relationships are so important to me, at least from an admissions perspective. And they start in my philosophy from the admissions process. So we love getting to know the students, but I like to hear about how students enjoy getting to know the professors too. And the fact that these relationships don't end when you graduate, or certainly when a semester ends. So I appreciate you all sharing that a little bit. And I know that you have several people that you could choose from. So I'm keeping an eye on time, and I knew this was going to be a quick 30 minutes. So can you all share a little bit about what it's been like? Many of the students at SoPA are working while they go to school, or they have other commitments, whether it be to family or the community. And so oftentimes our students are juggling multiple requirements on their time other than just going to school. And I know that that is the case for both of you. So can you share a little bit about what you were juggling and how you approached that, and how SoPA faculty and staff were supportive to you as you were managing your multiple obligations while working towards your degree? So Derrick.
Sure. When I initially approached this, I started off by only taking one class at a time, just because I wanted to build up a routine for myself, and I didn't want to bite off more than I can chew. So after I took one class, I met with an academic advisor, and they actually gave me more insight about how to take online courses at SoPA for flexibility reasons, because my time constraints are very slim. And what I realized over time is that I built up a routine, whereas I would pretty much go to school year round and take maybe two classes, maybe three sometimes, but two classes consistently year round. And that helped me to not only build up a routine, but to consistently have this work-life balance, right? And with my profession at work, things can be so complicated and technical on the logic side, to where there were times where SoPA was actually a release for me, because I would take an art class that was completely different from what I would do dealing with numbers. So it was kind of an outlet for me to hone in on other things, or my creative side that I didn't even know I had. So I would say that balancing work-life balance is something that it comes with time. It's not something that you just kind of jump in and get acclimated, but it is definitely doable. As a person that's pulled in so many different directions throughout the day and throughout the week, SoPA really makes it feasible for you to get a high quality education, and the resources and the support is there. And even more so, what I found very enlightening is that the attitude around education, the staff is very willing to help you to achieve your goals. And where they can't help provide that advice to you, they'll point you in the direction to get in to get in the contact with the person that can provide that advice for you. So yeah, that's my answer in a nutshell.
That's great. Thanks, Derrick. I appreciate you pointing that out. I know that our staff and faculty are intentional around helping students and supporting them towards their goal of getting their degree. So I appreciate you saying that. Kenley, can you share your experience?
Yes, I would love to. So it changed for me. Like Derrick, I came in, I took 2 classes my first semester and got a feel of sort of what would be expected of me in each class. And then there were semesters where I took 2 classes, and there were semesters where I took 4. It took me several years. It took me longer than I initially wanted it to, because I figured out fairly early into it, thankfully, that time is going to move regardless of what we do with it. But I really wanted to enjoy that journey. So for me, that meant not overloading myself to the point where I was exhausted. So a lot of, I mean, I think on average, I took 2 to 3 classes. Again, some semesters I took 4. So it really depended. I was doing a lot of contract work at the time. So it depended on my workload, and I allowed myself to be really honest with myself about the expectation of my time. And most of the time, it went really well. There were a couple of times when I thought, wow, why am I taking so many classes? But for the most part, I was able to really just go and enjoy that process. And yeah, I would say overall, it took me about 6.5 years to complete my degree, but looking back, it was worth it. And I'm really glad I did it.
And you haven't stopped. You're going to be
No.
Dr. Fight at some point.
Yes.
So I appreciate you pointing out the flexibility of taking 1 or 2 classes a semester, and then some semesters you decided to really, kind of pack your schedule with classes depending on what you had going on in your life. And we are down to our last minute. So I want to thank you all for sharing your stories, being a little vulnerable with those who decided to spend their time with us today. So I appreciate that. I also really appreciate those of you who joined us today to hear a little bit from Derrick and Kenley. I hope that you found this valuable and that you saw a little bit of yourselves in your questions and your journey towards your degree in them. And also, please reach out to us. Even though we're in a little bit of a different world and we're all working remotely, you can contact us. Please send us an email at either asksopa@tulane.edu, which is the email on your screen, or you can give us a call at 504-865-5555. We have all of our social media information also on the screen. We would love if you followed us on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, and we're available to answer questions to you all. One of the takeaways that I'd like for you all to think about as we wrap up today is that we like relationships with our students, as you can see. So let that start today by reaching out. And we certainly hope that we will be welcoming you all as students to SoPA very soon. So a special shout out to Derrick and Kenley, and thank you all. We hope to hear from you soon.